happy hour. I was joking with Jennifer earlier because I actually I don't drink, but I am a pretty happy person. So I said the happy hour actually suits really well for what we're trying to do this week. So welcome everybody. My name is Lisa Gareau. I am with Candy Event Consulting, and I'm going to point the right way this time. Way on the other side is Jenn Hadley with Candy as well. And sandwiched in the middle, yay, again, is our friend Jenn Lofgren. And Jenn, you are with Incito Leadership. I always get it wrong, Executive and Leadership Development. So it's just a big name to say that you are an amazing leadership coach, and that the people that are really working with you are those that want to take their leadership skills and their executive skills to the next level. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
It's fun. We had you actually, I guess that's 2 weeks ago already. Crazy.
What? Yeah, time's just going so fast right now.
I know. I was telling Jennifer actually that we had, we were kind of living on adrenaline, I think, that week, because we did the week of lives where we were talking about the crisis and managing your events through that crisis. And we had all sorts of emails and people calling and wanting to cancel or postpone or move them online, or what do we do? And the reality of this week, I think, is that we're all taking a bit of that step back. And we were on adrenaline before, so now I think people are putting on their reality hat and saying, this is different. Probably for you too, hey?
Yeah, I've been having the conversation with clients in terms of how to help their teams navigate through this time. And we've been talking about working on the premise that you're going to be in this for 3 months. And if we're back to some state of normal sooner, then it's bonus, but to help them not just make decisions every week, which can be exhausting, but to look at from a longer term perspective, if we're doing this for 3 months, what do we need to do as a team to stay connected? What do we need to do in terms of our processes and our thinking so that we're not making those decisions every day and every week, which can add to the exhaustion.
So what are those tips? Do you have a couple of them for people that are working with their teams now?
I think the most important one is start talking about the assumption that you're doing this for 3 months, not another couple of weeks, not one more month. Go with the assumption of 3 months so that you can talk about what are the systems and processes that you need to be effective in your business, but also effective as a team and maintaining your relationships as a team. And the other tip is get everybody on video, get off the phone, get off texting. Yeah, there are additional tools to use. See people face to face, look them in the eye. You're going to be way more effective as a team and keep your team more connected and build your relationships, because the phone is not a replacement for it.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point.
Yeah,
Jenn, are you feeling the effects of wearing off of adrenaline these days too?
There wasn't as much adrenaline for me as I think there was for the two of you. We've been coaching clients across North America by video conference for a very long time. And it was our clients locally in Calgary that we needed to make the transition with. The adrenaline really came from managing the postponement of our major event and looking at shifting that. And the other adrenaline piece was supporting some of our clients with a lot of that crisis mode that they were experiencing in the beginning, yet the rest of our business has been pretty easy to transition during this time.
That's really great. Lucky you.
I know, thank you.
But let's talk about the event that you had specifically. Well, we did one in Calgary and it went off really well. And then we planned an exact same one-ish in Vancouver. And how was that?
Well, we did the one together in Calgary, and then I had one more on my own. That was a heck of a lot more work on my own before I had Candy's great support. And we had a great success with both of the events in Calgary in September, and then with Candy's support in January. And we had great momentum coming into the event in Vancouver at the end of March. And then 2 weeks out, things started to look like they were really changing. There was, we weren't right into the full lockdown yet. And I was getting calls from our participants in the program. I was starting to question my own travel, Candy's travel to come and support the event. And then we also had approval through our licensing agreement that we could have moved the program into an online event. And given the kind of work that we were doing and the experience that participants were expecting to be able to dive into the work that we were going to do, we made the difficult decision to not move online, but to postpone the event.
Yeah.
And that was a tough decision to make, and the right decision.
Tell us a little bit about the event for those that didn't attend and that haven't been following you yet. That will be, but what was the event meant?
The event was a Dare to Lead program, and Dare to Lead is a workshop that's a licensed workshop for trained facilitators from Brene Brown's organization, Dare to Lead. I'm a certified Dare to Lead facilitator, and it was the full 2-day Dare to Lead curriculum that we were walking through, as I said, a few times in Calgary, and really excited about bringing this program to leaders in Vancouver. And this program is a courage building program. We're diving into conversations around vulnerability and rumbling with vulnerability, around navigating our values, building trust, coming back from setbacks and failures, and applying that to your unique challenges around courage in your leadership. And it's a facilitated program to help you not only understand the content, but to really apply the content. And it's not a program that we're regularly approved to deliver online, yet facilitators that had programs that were ready to go, like ours was, we were approved to move to an online format. But in thinking about the experience for participants to be able to really be present with this work, to dive into it over a full 2-day program, it just didn't make a lot of sense to move it online. And so that's what drove the decision to postpone rather than to go online.
Yeah, having been in the room, especially, I get how that would be a totally different experience online versus live. And I think the live aspect, where there's the back and forth and sharing ideas with other participants and with yourself and volunteers, and having that whole sort of family feel of it. I think that really, you're right in not going online with that, and postponing sounds like a great idea when you get to finally do it.
Well, and I think the interesting thing, Jen, in that is that there's such a, when you talk about vulnerability, and as much as these are high-level leaders, they're people that really are willing to dig in, like you say, and do the hard work and be available to what's showing up for them. And you're really so brilliant at managing not just the material, but things that are coming up for people as they're coming up. It's tough work. And I think that the interesting thing about, in your case, moving something online, like Jennifer was saying, it almost takes that equation out, where you are able to be vulnerable in a way where you're in a safe environment. You're kind of pulled away from your everyday in your workshop, where now you're immersed in it for 2 days, and you're allowing yourself to go there into places that are uncomfortable to for a point, right? Like you're getting them somewhere over the course of those 2 days.
Yeah. I think the key word you said there was environment. I have no concern that from a facilitation perspective, I could have done an exceptional job for participants in taking them through this program, through creating those connections with other participants, in using technology for breakout rooms and other technology to create those more intimate conversations. The one thing that the online format doesn't allow us to control is the environment. And the environment is really key. As you know, I work closely with Candy to choose the very best environment for this workshop, right down to choosing what we serve at our breaks and our meal times to ensure people feel like they've got that nourishment to really dig into the work that they need to be doing, that they've got that comfortable space, they've got natural light, and all the right pieces to create the environment that's going to create the best learning from them. Those are the pieces that I can't control through an online experience that very much lend to the learning experience for the participant in our programs.
Definitely. I absolutely agree. So now with the plan moving forward, we're looking at fall dates for Vancouver, and then potentially other ones, or?
Well, and what happened was, this has been a fluid process for all of us in terms of rescheduling and thinking about, okay, what's this mean for my event now? My initial thinking was that we were probably looking at restarting maybe a month out in terms of our planning and relaunching this event late April and looking at holding the event in June. And as things have progressed and we've learned more about the environment that we're in, that's not a possibility. It's not realistic for our participants that are already registered to choose an appropriate new date for them. And the uncertainty and to allow other participants to sign up to attend, my thinking has now moved into September or October. And knowing that some decisions will need to be made around those dates by the end of June to realistically, again, give participants the ability to coordinate with those dates, and also for new participants to have the ability to join and be able to plan their lives around everything else that's happening for them. So right now, looking at September, October for Vancouver. And then the other thing that we had in the works was looking at September in Toronto. And now that's also on hold. We hadn't launched that yet, and would very much like to go to Toronto in the fall of 2020. And again, we'll need to make those decisions by the end of June for September, October, or by the end of July for November, again, so that people can plan their lives around a particular event. Because we know that taking 2 days away from the workplace does take a level of commitment and planning to be able to fully show up and be present and not be distracted in their learning.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people, especially a lot of clients, a lot of people in our community, they are leaders that are planning their own events. They are passionate. They want to show up for their customers. They want to show up for their clients. Even donors, if you're a nonprofit, a lot of you out there are doing your nonprofit events. And because we have Jenn here as such a strong and such an authentic leadership coach, I would love to ask you, even if you had some tips for some of the leaders around, not just in the shift necessarily, but with where they are now, because reality is sinking in. So how would you coach somebody that is leading a team, whether it's a volunteer team, maybe it's a team of other planners, how would you suggest that they manage through this as a leader for themselves and for their teams, kind of in where they're at now? Because now we're not as maybe feeling as scrambled. We're dealing with the reality now. What tips would you have for them?
I'll maybe start with the nonprofit leaders, because I know a lot of nonprofits are hit really hard right now, and a lot of them are looking at events coming up in the fall, and especially some big fundraising events. Some of them have had some fundraising events that were canceled within hours of opening the doors for the event, and they're told that took. And others, there's one I'm on the board for that has an event every November. And in just the recent days, we made the difficult decision to postpone that event until the spring of 2021. And what was important about that was recognizing that not only is it about having the event and selling tickets, but also stewardship of sponsors and corporate sponsors, and looking at the time to ask for sponsorship for a November event is really from now to September, not a month or two before the event. Talk to your team. Have real candid conversations about how you're all feeling about what's unfolding. Talk about all your stakeholders and what might be happening for them. Part of our decision making was exploring what our stakeholders were dealing with, and when the appropriate time for us to have conversations with them would be, and recognizing not all stakeholders are created equal. And we looked at who our stakeholders were and what they were dealing with right now. And for this nonprofit, a lot of those supporters and sponsors were in the energy industry. And they've got so much going on, not just with COVID, but the collapse of oil prices, that now is not a time to even reach out and have a conversation at all, that they've got so much on their plates that not even reaching out and saying, hey, we're here. It's not having a conversation at all and giving them another month before you even reach out at all. Have an honest conversation about what you're feeling, what's going on with your stakeholders, and then what might be next for you. What can you look towards? Like my event, I started looking at June and continue to reevaluate. And now we're moving towards looking at September, October, not being hopeless, but what is the goal that you're working towards, even though it might still change? Or the nonprofit, we had a goal for November. Now, being realistic, the goal needed to shift till spring 2021. It didn't become that cancel everything. It became, okay, so how are we going to pivot now? Sometimes it's changing the date. Sometimes it's going to be changing the format. Other nonprofits are moving to online events. When it comes to other business leaders, looking at how can you pivot your business and using technology? Who are your stakeholders? Who are your customers? And what is it that you want to be as an organization? Now that we're in this new reality, we're seeing businesses that are pivoting their whole production towards medical supplies or other services in the community. We're seeing grocery store chains move into not only providing online services, but also giving care packages to those that are in quarantine to make sure that they're well cared for and they don't have to worry about food security or about breaking a quarantine order or putting themselves at risk by going outside because they're unwell. So have those conversations as a team. What are you experiencing? What are your goals? Knowing that they could pivot, and what makes sense for who you want to be and who your stakeholders are.
Totally. And it really does create a sense that we're all in it together, right? So as the leader, and that is speaking of vulnerability, that's a point of vulnerability to say, I'm not sure necessarily what the exact right decision is going to be, but as we have these dialogues together and decide on a plan together, and honestly moving things into 2021 is a tough decision for a lot of people, because there is almost an equation. Hey, Jennifer, when there's an equation of we throw an event and we make 50,000, or we run this campaign and they get in a bit of a rhythm, right? Like year over year, and then you get a percentage of your working capital from an event, for example, to be rethinking then what else could fill those blanks. Yeah. And Jennifer, you've probably had, I think you've had a couple of those conversations already this week. Eh?
I have. With so many organizations, especially going into the summer with festivals and runs and charity, run and walks and things like that, where this is the time for them to make their money, right? So, and as we've heard a lot, the need is still there, even if the avenue to get that money is no longer available. But this is the time where we show who we are and how we're going to show up, right? So it's that choice, to make that choice of, we're going to do this in some way. Maybe your walk and run can't be a walk and run. Maybe now it's going to be something else, but we're going to still engage sponsors. We're still going to speak with, our stakeholders and make sure that everyone's still involved as much as possible. And then, maybe you'll make $70,000 instead of 50 that you originally planned because you did something different. And then next year it's, okay, maybe this worked better. So, there's a lot of unknowns here, and I think that with the unknowns comes a lot of opportunity to get creative, to get interesting, to not just throw something online just because that's what everyone else seems to be doing. Sometimes it makes sense to postpone. And Jen, I think you're doing it exactly right. We need to postpone this, and in the meantime, you're making contact with your people and with your clients and your with your teams, and you're making sure that they're all on the right track. And that's what leadership means, right? Is okay, we can't do this here, but follow me this way and we're going to continue. And it's really great. It's awesome to see, and I'm so happy to be part of it. That's so cool.
Jen, I think you described well, now's the time to continue to maintain that relationship. If your events are postponed, yes, you're really busy. Yeah, you got a lot of things on the go, but you've got this event that's taken off your hands for now. How can you redirect those efforts towards maintaining those relationships and strengthening those relationships and contributing even more value to your stakeholders between now and when your event can happen? Or how do you build that relationship in a new way if it doesn't happen to be an event? Or maybe it is your event using a new innovative approach. And you reminded me of the run walk. I just saw an organization that's doing their run walk that's coming up in a couple of weeks. They're doing a virtual run walk. People can still run and walk, and they're doing an online event. and in terms of creating that community through the run walk, and people are still able to raise money. They're able to run walk. They're just not going to be able to run walk in a large group.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a whole new experience for them, and potentially able to bring in even more people because they may be able to reach people that aren't even located in the same geographic city.
And you know what's funny about that, just as an aside on the run walk thing, there was a guy, I don't know where he is, but getting a lot of publicity for doing a marathon, just running on his balcony back and forth. And seriously, this is a thing. And a friend of mine who's running one of the marathons, he's like, I'm going to send him a marathon medal from a totally different, so people from all these organizations are sending him a medal for participating in something that they weren't even registered in. But, that's also, it's just a way to get creative. Okay, I can't run with you, but I can run on my own on my balcony. And maybe I look crazy because I'm like, back and forth and looking like I'm pacing. But, there's lots of ways. And you can still do your teams, and you can still tag your friends, and you can still ask for, for any kind of buy-in that you're looking for. It's just a matter of how. And
I think we mentioned that, Jennifer. That was like on a different conversation, different live. But this idea of this is a time where people are giving each other a lot of grace. Mm-hmm. And even as leaders, if you're working on a team, if you've got big plans and the plans are changing, I would say almost every conversation we've had is people are putting forward not just new ideas, but they're putting forward a lot of grace to being open to change, being open to a new conversation, being open to learning something new, and to each other. Like, where maybe you won't do it perfectly, maybe it's just going to look a little goofy or whatever it is, like the run. Well, maybe that's just going to be looking totally different than what anyone has ever seen. Mm-hmm. But people are okay with that now because there are bigger factors at play, and to recognize a lot of the pain and suffering that's going on in the world right now. We can't close our eyes to that.
Right.
At the same time, as leaders, we are putting one foot in front of the other, and making decisions and doing our best. And that's, I think, the beauty of what you bring, Jen, to the work that you do, and what a gift it is for us to be able to support you and also feel supported in that exchange. What a gift that is. And I really want to encourage anybody that's watching. I know that we have gone live the last couple of weeks, and at first I watched Jennifer. I watched our first one. I'm like, I'm so nervous. I don't know. I haven't been live and whatever for years and years. Like, this is new for us. But honestly, what a gift that all of you are giving us a lot of grace. We want to continue having these conversations. It's important to us because we're all in this together. And that's also a big reason why we asked you, Jen, to be part of this today, because your perspective is really valuable. And the gift of what you bring, not just to your clients, but I think anytime that you share with us, there's always these nuggets that I want to hang on to and pull them into the work that we're doing. So thank you for that. Where can people find you? I think we're kind of getting close to 5 o'clock, but where can they find you, and what's next for you? What's coming up?
So you can find me online at incito.ca, and you can also find me on LinkedIn and on Facebook. And what's coming up next is, as I said, in the fall, we're going to be doing Dare to Lead in Vancouver and Toronto, or Vancouver and Calgary. We'll have a couple more Dare to Lead events, so stay tuned for those dates. And the other thing that's next is, like you're doing the live events with Candy. We've started doing our own webinars, and we've had a couple already, and we've posted those webinar links on our social media. And we've got another one coming up tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to be looking at the connection between systems thinking and courage. Because systems thinking is really looking at the whole environment that you're in, and how do you solve today's problems with perspectives, not looking at the tried and true from the past and best practices, but looking at wise practices and looking at the interconnection between everything that we're going through and the complexity of it all. So that's one way that we're giving back to the community right now.
That's so great. What time is that at tomorrow?
That's at 1 o'clock Mountain Time tomorrow. And again, we've got the link on our LinkedIn, and you can find me on LinkedIn as Jenn Lofgren.
So I will, as we've been doing with all of these, I'll do another replay. We'll do a watch party, and then that'll give me that opportunity to get some of those links in there for everybody that's watching. And if you want to participate, is there a fee for that, Jen? Just so people are
no fee for the webinar. We've been doing them. We've done 2 already. 1 more tomorrow. We've had some others on managing stress and balancing empathy, boundaries, and tough decisions. So happy to share those in the replay as well.
Perfect. That sounds awesome. That sounds awesome. Jennifer, any last closing thoughts as we cheers for the day? Honestly, every day it's like, oh goodness, it's almost 5 o'clock. I feel like I'm halfway done my
Well, we've got it Passover starts tonight, so we are in full-on Passover mode. We've been trying to get the kids all right and getting onto those things. So as soon as I sign off, we're back to making chicken soup and.
And they made the matzo balls today. Was that what you?
Yeah, my daughter made matzo balls all by herself today. So we FaceTimed with my mom, and she taught us how to do it over the internet because no one's going to be here. So we might have some FaceTime family time with everyone. But other than that, we are. Passover is great because you have to drink 4 glasses of wine as part of the tradition. So. I'm good today.
You're good tonight. That'll be good. And just for everyone else, we've been actually announcing our next Be Lives. Tomorrow we're going to have Richard Greer is with Groovy Spice. And he was planning, I won't give you the whole story today, but he was planning a launch of his new Alberta rub. So can I say that, Richard, out loud? Yeah. But we have been making some big changes for him. There's all sorts of changes. As Jen said yesterday, the city's closed off events up until June 30. So we are looking for alternatives, and that is one that's going to be a really cool one online, and we're going to talk a little bit about that tomorrow. And then I actually celebrate Easter. So Easter, Good Friday is on Friday. So we've actually shifted Richard from Day on Purpose is going to be into next week. So we'll make sure that we're updating our County Event Consulting Facebook page. So just watch on the /live. It'll give you all the replays, and then we can, you'll actually get to see what's coming up as well. So thank you, everybody, for being here and for joining us. And thank you again, Jen, for being with us. I'm sure we'll see you on the flip side somewhere as we start looking forward to fall. So
thanks again for having me. It was great to be here.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.